What's going on, guys? It's Ed here from ClicksGeek, and I'm here with Josh Nelson.
Hey, glad to be here. Excited.
So Josh is a seven-figure agency owner, and he owns a company called Plumbing and HVAC SEO down in Miami. And he does mid-seven-figure, super successful company, Inc. 5000 list. He's like a shining example in the internet marketing space of how to grow and scale a digital marketing agency. He's also the author of this book called The Seven-Figure Agency Roadmap. And today we're here to pick his brain. So Josh, let's start with a little bit of background. Give me a little bit of context of where you came from, how you got into the agency space. Give me a little bit of dirt.
Yeah, so I started my first agency right out of high school. I was going to be a web design hosting company. Tried that for about 2.5 years, probably like a lot of us, right? Chasing the wrong business model, chasing the wrong type of clients, doing everything you can do wrong. Spent 2 years, 40, 60 hours a week, didn't make enough money to pay myself what I would have made at Starbucks. Shut that down and went to work in corporate America for a little bit. I went and worked at a lot of business-to-business jobs. So I worked at ADP, the big payroll company. I worked at Laysan. And while I was working at these companies, I really knew I wanted to be in my own business. And so I was reading, all the common books that you're probably a big reader, right? The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, the E-Myth Revisited, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And, they all say you have to start a business, you have to, invest in assets, and that's how you become successful, and that's how you become free. And so I was like, I have to figure out how to do this business thing. Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, he says, go find a job in the type of business you want to be in instead of trying to start it right out of the gates. I was like, okay, let's figure out who's doing good in the internet marketing space. At the time, Reach Local was one of the big companies doing $250 million a year in revenue. And I was like, okay, they seem to be doing something right. Why don't I get a job there? And so I got a job at Reach Local. I worked there for about 1.5 years, sold. Obviously, it's a salesperson. And it just opened my eyes to, a better business model, a better way to sell, a better way to charge, a better way to kind of grow an agency. And, there was pluses and minuses. I learned a lot, right? I discovered kind of what was going to accelerate my growth. But I also quickly grew disenchanted with the fact that the clients I had weren't getting great results. They weren't getting a great ROI. And so kind of armed with what I felt I needed and kind of this discontentment with results, I felt it was time to start my own agency. Started Click Incorporated back in 2011, quickly pivoted to focusing on plumbing and HVAC companies exclusively. And like you said, kind of grew to 7 figures in the first 2 years. And now we're 30 full-time employees, doing about $4.5 million per year. So it's been an exciting and fun run.
Very cool. 2 questions. Do you have a partner in the business? I know the answer, but give me an idea of do you have a partner in the business, and why did you choose that partner?
Yeah, I do. I have a business partner. His name is Dean Iadisi. We've been together in Click Incorporated from the beginning. I think that, having a business partner that has synergy to you. So at the time, I was really bullish on sales and business development, right? That's kind of my skill, going out, positioning myself, landing clients, serving clients. But I wasn't the technical expert. Like I wasn't the guy that could go out and build great websites and make sure that they ranked well. And so there was a good synergy between he and I, where I could focus on business development. He could focus on fulfilling for the client base and making sure the results would be there.
Isn't it a wonderful thing not to have to fulfill the work that you sell?
It is. It is a wonderful thing.
It's lovely. Yeah, same boat with my business partner. So plumbing and HVAC. Why plumbing and HVAC? Why not every business within the Miami market? Why one vertical over kind of a mass appeal?
Yeah, it's a great question. And for me, working at Reach Local, you could sell to anybody, right? And so everybody, everybody was a prospect. The roofer, the dentist, the chiropractor, the boat cleaning company, the e-commerce shop down the road, the education company. And what I found is, as I was trying to go out and get clients, was everybody wanted to deal with somebody that had experience with their type of business. So I'd get an opportunity with the roofing company, and they'd say, okay, tell me what you can do. I'd kind of walk them through the spiel, and then they'd say, okay, what other roofing companies have you worked with? Right? Can I talk with one of your roofing references? And if you'd have to have so many clients and so many different verticals to be able to lower the resistance to that. And so I thought, if I just had one vertical that I did a lot of business in, selling would be so much easier. right? And I experienced that early on, believe it or not, within plumbing and HVAC SEO. I landed a plumbing client. I got him great results, knocked it out of the park, and he started to refer me to other plumbing companies in not his direct area, but kind of outside his area in South Florida. And it snowballed from there because everybody wants to deal with the expert in their type of business. And that's just kind of on the surface level. Beyond that, really, the biggest benefits of being niche focused or on one vertical as opposed to a generalist is you can go deep with your marketing, right? Being a generalist, talking about internet marketing, whether it's websites, SEO, pay-per-click, funnels, goes to white noise. Like, you cannot be an expert in internet digital marketing because there's too many people you're trying to talk to. But when you speak to a specific audience, like in my case, plumbing and HVAC companies, everything becomes interesting, right? You can publish a book, you can do webinars, you can put out content that speaks directly to that vertical on internet marketing topics, and it's specifically for them. So people just kind of start to lean into you as the expert. But I think the other big thing behind being vertical specific is systematization, right? Scaling your business in one vertical becomes so much easier because you figured out, all right, here's how I set up the website. Here are the keywords I optimize for. Here's like the sales bullets that work best. And you can really map out, here's what we do for a client. Here's how we get it done. Here's the time frame for everything. And create a systematizable process, which enables you to scale, beyond 5, 10, 15 clients to literally hundreds and hundreds of clients with very consistent and reliable outcomes for the clients that you serve.
Okay. And you talk about systemizing the back end of the business. What services are you offering?
So for us, we try and take a very comprehensive approach for our clients.
Right.
So it's website, SEO. So like we'll roll out a new website, pages for each of the services, pages for each of their cities, optimized, for conversion. And then we'll do SEO services to try and get the website ranked in their area for the most important key terms. We also run paid search. I find that running Google AdWords, especially in this space, helping them with Google local service ads is mission critical because we want to generate leads right out of the gates. And then tracking, right? Making sure that we're clearly tracking how many leads did they get, how much do they spend, what's the return on investment. And there's lots of little things that go, in with that, but that's kind of our core offering that we bring to the table for our client base.
Got it. Okay. One thing we didn't talk about earlier on, I want to give a little bit of context. Is you own another business called Seven Figure Agency, where you train others on how to build niche businesses and build the dream of the Seven Figure Agency. And you give a roadmap on how to get there, how to pick your niche, how to market your niche, how to price out your services, all that kind of stuff. You wrote this book, The Roadmap, the Seven Figure Agency Roadmap. I didn't know what to expect when I read this book. I thought this was going to be no offense, I thought it was going to be a fluff piece, pushing towards a webinar of some sort. I was blown away by the quality of this book. There's so much gold within this book. This is the best digital marketing agency book in market, hands down. You did an excellent job with this. I'm not an affiliate. I've got nothing to sell here. I'm literally just complimenting. This book is really good.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely, man. So the reason I bring this up is, you give in a lot of examples of the services that you're offering, kind of a holistic look. When someone's new to starting an agency, or let's say they're sub $10,000 monthly recurring revenue, what kind of services should they be offering, and what kind of price points should they be trying to sell at, just to get the ball moving and properly growing the business with some velocity?
Yeah, so I think that if you look at the money math to growing an agency, a lot of people get into this place where they're doing project work. So they'll charge $1,500 for a website and then $50 a month to host it. And that's kind of the whole journey. And
right.
My experience, my first agency, was that model did not scale because you'd have to sell so many websites every single month just to cover your overhead, just to grow. And so one of the big shifts that I made was focusing on recurring revenue. Every single client we sell is going to pay us a monthly fee that recurs every single month. And I think the money needs to be high enough so that it starts to snowball. So by that, I mean, not $50 a month, not even $500 a month. I think that the ideal sweet spot is somewhere between $1,000 and $2,500 per month or more. And when you do that, even if you only sell 3 or 5 clients every single month, by the end of a 12 to 24 month period with that kind of consistency, with that kind of recurring revenue, you'll have a 7-figure digital marketing agency. So I think $1,000 to $2,500 per month, and it needs to be some combination of website that's built to convert, Google AdWords, or like some type of paid model that's going to generate leads out of the gate and show the clients a return on investment, with a long-term SEO strategy to really get the website ranking organically. I find that a blended approach, works very, very well for most local businesses. And, at the end of the day, as an agency, your number one objective is to get your clients a tangible, measurable return on investment. So you want to craft your packages to ensure that that's what you're able to deliver.
Got it. Okay. So $1,000 a month might seem like an intimidating number to some agencies, that are looking to sell or previously selling at, say, $500 a month or $750. How do you make sense of $1,000 a month management fee? And is a person just potentially just targeting too small of a business? Is there a sweet spot in business size they should be targeting that can really make sense of those kind of numbers?
It's a great point. And what I'll say is, I remember I felt the same way before I worked at Reach Local. That's one of the reasons my business failed. I just, in my mind, I couldn't think that the local business would pay more than $500 a month. Actually, in my mind, I was initially thinking $250. I'll get $250 a month and I'll kind of grow it over time. And when I worked at Reach Local, I saw thousands of sales reps selling 5 to 7 clients every single month at between $2,000 and $5,000 per month, pretty consistently. And then as I was trained and I started doing it, I experienced it myself. I was like, holy moly, like, this isn't an exception to the rule. This is very common. Like, your average local business will comfortably pay that kind of money. So those types of sales opportunities are in abundance, literally in abundance in the U.S. economy, and even in international markets as well. Now, the type of client that you work with is pretty important, because if you're dealing with the bottom of the market, right, the guys that are maybe just getting started, the companies that maybe are just one-man operations, for them, that is a lot of money, and they wouldn't spend more than $1,000. But in any vertical, in any market, in any kind of area in the country, there's companies doing $500,000, $1 million and more in revenue. And those companies have grown as a function of having a good business and doing some type of advertising and marketing, right? Whether it's old days Yellow Pages, whether it's direct mail, whether it's radio ads, they spend money, right? And so if you can show them a model where you can generate better results for them for the same money they're already spending, they're going to take that all day long, and they will gladly pay $1,000 to $5,000 per month for services that generate an ROI. So part of it is a mindset thing. Like, you just got to know that those types of opportunities exist and go get them. Right. And the other thing is, make sure that you're not dealing with the brand new startup. Focus on the 80-20 principle, right? The 20% of the businesses in the market that generate 80% of the revenue and are the most successful.
Got it. Is there a framework you use on how to determine what niche you should be targeting? Is there some filter you put things through?
Absolutely. So a couple of things you want to do when it comes to choosing niche. I think the first is to make sure that you've got them in a category that would self-identify. So by that, if I see a lot of people that think, okay, I'm going to choose a niche, and then they'll say, I'll do home services, right? Or they'll say, I'll do legal. And while that is like a much narrower market than any local company in your area, home services, for instance, there's so many little buckets within home services, right? Within home services, roofing, there's lawn care, there's plumbing, there's AC, right? There's lots of little sub-markets. And if you were just to choose home services as your vertical, that's too broad. Like, there's too many companies, and any of your marketing would go on, it would go on deaf ears, because nobody self-identifies as home services. They self-identify as a decorative concrete company. They self-identify as a roofer. So that's the first. The second is, you want to make sure you choose a niche that has shown a propensity to spend on advertising, right? So there are certain verticals like plumbing, like locksmiths, like roofing, where if you look historically, these companies have grown as a function of spending money in the Yellow Pages, or spending money at some mechanism to generate phone calls, to generate sales. And so you're going to have a much easier time trying to sell digital marketing to a market that already spends those dollars, as opposed to, let's say a market that is all referral based or is all word of mouth based, because they don't already spend those dollars. It's hard to create money that they don't already have earmarked in their business. So that's the second. And then the third is you want to make sure there's enough of them to have some type of critical mass, right? You don't want to choose a niche that's so narrow where there's only like 500 of them in the entire country, and you'd have to get 20% of them in order to have any type of critical mass. So that's a consideration. And then the fourth, in my mind, and it's probably the biggest shortcut, is find one that has an association, a national association of plumbing companies, national association of, bankruptcy attorneys. And by knowing that there's an association, it kind of gives you a couple shortcuts. The first is, that you're going to be able to access a list of some sort of those association members. That you'll probably be able to join that as an affinity partner and be able to draft on that. So as you reach out to the prospects in that space, you'll be able to say, hey, I'm contacting you because I'm an associate member of X, right? And the other thing that's really big is when there's an association, that they probably get together at some frequency. They have events that happen on a national basis and a local basis where you'll be able to exhibit, you'll be able to potentially speak. And I think that if you've got those 4 criteria in your favor, like, they self-identify, there's enough of them to have critical mass, they have a propensity to advertise, and there's some type of association that you can participate in, you're going to be in a really solid niche with a lot of growth potential.
Got it. So you've got a lot of successful students within the community. What are some niches that your successful students are targeting? Do you mind sharing that?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. So, it kind of runs the gamut. There's Alan Hillsberg, who focuses on funeral homes. And I remember when he told me he was going to focus on funeral homes like 4 years ago, and he was kind of at like $10,000 a month doing project type work. I was like, well, it's a niche. They self-identify. There's enough of them to be critical. Let's see what happens. Fast forward 3 years, he's got a 7-figure digital marketing agency serving just funeral homes. We've got Brian Stearman, who focuses on lawn care companies. Literally the guys that cut your lawn and remodel your lawns, 7 figures in that particular niche. We've got Danny Barrera, who focuses on decorative concrete. So you think home services, then you think decorative concrete might be such a narrow niche that it might even be like too small. He's growing to 7 figures in that space. And these guys are continuing to grow, continuing to scale. We have guys in dentistry. We have guys in orthodontists. We have guys in legal. It kind of runs the gamut. And so, being niche focused really is the fastest way to, simplify your business model, accelerate the growth of your digital marketing agency. Okay.
Sorry, I picked my niche. I picked my services that I'm going to target. Talk to me how I brand myself in the market and how I start to actually market the business to get some leads coming in.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's a lot of different ways. Branding yourself, obviously you want to choose a name that speaks to the niche. So ours is called Plumbing and HVAC SEO, right? It's kind of on the nose a little bit, but if you're going to choose the niche, throw that at the beginning and throw internet marketing or marketing machine or something like that together. Don't spend a ton of time on branding beyond that, right? Choose the name, set up a website that's got some content that says, hey, I specialize in helping this vertical generate this result. And then from there, I like to think you take a relatively proactive approach to position yourself as the go-to expert in that particular space. So you have to start by getting a list of people in the vertical. And so you'd get that list either by joining the association or buying it. And then you want to get aggressive in reaching out to that niche with value-added content. And so I like to take an approach of cold outreach, like where we're just introducing ourselves, we're connecting via email, social media, and we're communicating our value proposition. But then we also want to shift to value-added content. And so that's, I could go deep on this, but that's where you want to join the association. You want to try and put on, co-hosted webinars where you get access to their list and you're adding value. Here's how to set up your website to convert better. Here's how you run paid search campaigns. They're going to generate lots of leads. Here's how to tap into the power of social media. And by doing that, you can become known in the space as the expert, somebody that knows how to get the results, that is very specialized in this space. and get clients to come to you pre-positioned to buy. So you don't necessarily have to chase everybody down.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Before you can get to that inbound positioning, before those leads come in, what do you recommend from an outbound perspective to actually get the ball rolling, to actually make
Yeah, I mean, from an outbound perspective, I recommend what I call the cold outreach formula, and that's really just getting the list, sending them a message, and I use one of three different angles on those messages. The first is I'm looking to work with one in your area. So that's like, hey, look, I'm looking to work with just one plumber in your area. Here's what I do. Here's the value I add. Let me know if that's something you're interested in, right? So that's one angle. The other angle is, could you use an additional X, right? So could you use an additional 3 to 5 trenchless sewer repair projects? And it's just a question mark to try and get them to reply back and express some level of interest.
Right.
And the third is a content piece. So ideally, you create content that positions yourself as the expert. Hey, I just created what I call the ultimate checklist on how to market your plumbing business to generate more leads and sales. Would you like me to send it to you? Right. So I mean, get the list, start sending those type of messages out in mass, get the people to reply back that they're interested or express interest, close the low hanging fruit, but then also at the same time, start putting together content that you can drip on the bigger list over time so that they start to know, like, trust, believe that you're the expert, see your value, and then come to you directly.
Got it. Okay. What are your thoughts on going outbound to start relationships with strategic alliances or joint ventures to fuel growth that way?
I mean, I think that's extremely powerful, right? I mean, you've got cold outreach, you've got associations, you've got inbound marketing, which is the webinars, the content, stuff like that, and then you've got JVs, joint ventures. I found that one of the fastest ways to shortcut your growth is to find someone that's already looked to as the expert. Ideally, someone that's coaching within that niche, somebody that's a consultant in that niche, maybe somebody that, has an association of some sort in that niche, and get in touch with them, kind of like you would with the association. Try and find a win-win. Either it's a value added that you're going to put on content, or some type of rev share. Look, for every client that you help me get into, I'm going to give you some percentage of the recurring revenue. That can be a great shortcut. We've got guys in the group that have literally built 7-figure agencies on the back of like 1 or 2 really well-placed joint ventures. So I'm glad you brought that up. Absolutely.
Awesome. You mentioned webinars. I'm not a big fan of camera. I do a lot of video, but I do not like being on camera, especially live camera. So the thought of doing a webinar is a bit intimidating to me. However, you are a lover of webinars.
Mm-hmm.
Always doing webinars. You're always using them in all your marketing. Why webinars?
So there's a lot of reasons I like webinars. So the first thing is, it's a live event that you can invite people to. So you think about it, you're going to wind up with a database of prospects that you reached out via cold email, or prospects that have opted in for something you created. And you have to figure out a way to nurture that database, right? The money isn't necessarily in having a big list. It's in the relationship with the list. It's in having those people hear from you enough and get enough value from you that they know, like, and trust you, right? So I've talked about that a couple times. So doing webinars gives you a reason to touch that database a couple times per month. Because if you're doing one webinar per month, let's just say, you've got a reason to say, hey, this month I'm going to be doing a webinar on X, right? Whatever it is, how to tap into the power of local service ads, right? And you can promote it a couple of times, right? And then ideally, you're going to have the people show up, watch the webinar live. That creates content, and you've got a reason to email afterwards. Hey, in case you missed it, here's the replay, right? Hey, in case you didn't get a chance, watch, at minute 5:17, I cover this one topic you really want to check out. So it creates, whether they watch the webinar or not, it creates a groundswell of communication that's not annoying. You can only communicate with somebody so many times about scheduling an appointment or about checking something that you've done out. But if you're promoting a live event, it's a different reason to communicate with them. So that's one reason. It just kind of nurtures your database. It also forces you to create content, right? All of us know we should be creating content on a consistent basis. It needs to be new. It needs to be relevant. But finding time to sit down and crank out a blog post, or like you do, sit down and shoot a video, which works great for you, but not everybody does that. And so knowing that you've got a webinar on Thursday at 2 p.m. every single month, for instance, forces you to show up, press record on your camera and create that fresh, unique content that can then be syndicated in a variety of ways. Because once you do the webinar, you've got a video file, you've got an audio file, you've got something to throw up on YouTube, you've got something to throw up on iTunes. You can take the video and split it up into component parts and load all of that across the internet. And so what I found is one webinar per month can really drive your entire content machine, and it can create really prolific content that really positions you as the go-to expert in your space. And you're just one core piece of content every single month.
Right. So a couple interesting things in the book here that I thought were really interesting about webinars. When I think webinars, I think of like StomperNet or some sort of big product launch. You know, and there's 4,000 people on the webinar and they're selling some product for $9.97. You proposed a different way to think about webinars, that maybe only 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 people are going to show up to it, but you have you've got the 100 people that signed up or the 30 people that signed up. Talk to me about the sign up process. What happens after they sign up, and where's the real power in webinar for local business?
Absolutely. So I mean, this is kind of a hack. It's kind of a shortcut. Here's the reality. If you think about it, how many of you, like if you're listening to this, how many of you sign up for webinars but never attend? Do you do this pretty frequently? I know that I do.
Most. I wait for the recording to come.
Yeah, you wait for the recording, and you maybe don't even watch the recording. And that's the lion's share of your ideal prospects, right? Your guy that does $1 million a year in his business, that's a type A personality, that's very successful. He'll see the invite for your webinar. He'll be like, hey, that sounds like an interesting topic. He'll register for it, but he won't attend. So what we found, the most productive thing you can do is promote the webinar and then take them to a shortcut, which is just right after they register, instead of saying, hey, you're confirmed, they get to a page with an autoplay video that says, hey, thanks so much for registering for the webinar. We're going to be talking all about how to get your website ranked on page 1. It's going to be great. If you're like most plumbing and HVAC contractors, you like to understand how this stuff works. You like to be on the cutting edge, but ultimately you're trying to find a company that can implement this for you and get you the result. And if that's you, I'd like to offer you the opportunity to schedule a one-on-one. We'll look at your company, we'll look at what you're doing now, and we'll talk about how we can help you implement in your business. So if that sounds good, click the button below, schedule a time, it'll be added to my calendar, and we can help you implement this in your business. So that's the shortcut, right? You promote the webinar and you offer them the opportunity before the webinar ever happens. And what we find is almost like 60% of the appointments we get from our webinars come from that 2-step. Right? And so the big aha here is we spend so much time vexing over the webinar, right? We're going to make the slides, we got to practice it, and that prevents us from ever doing it, when the lion's share of the value really is just promote the webinar, get them straight onto your calendar, and if that's all you did, it's almost like the webinar doesn't matter at all. You're going to have a lot more opportunities in play, and that's a great shortcut to tap into the power of webinars without overthinking the content that you produce.
Got it. Beautiful. And I've seen that, and we've implemented it in other pieces, other lead gen pieces throughout the website and throughout our marketing. So a checklist, for example, or a book download, or wherever else you're asking for people for that ethical bribe, you can implement that strategy as well and produce strategy sessions that way.
100%. Don't wait for the consumption of the content.
Yeah.
Like, offer the content. Tell them, hey, look, I'm going to send it via email. If you really want to know how to implement this, let's schedule a time to talk. Like, shortcut that every single time on every thank you page for any piece of content that you share out.
Got it. What do you see as a kind of like best, or what is it? Better, best, better, bestest? I can't talk. 1, 2, 3 strategies for those appointments, those strategy sessions. Are we talking webinar, some sort of checklist, or an ebook, or an ebook checklist webinar? What do you see as the best ethical bribe to get to that?
I think the most powerful lead magnet you can offer right now is a case study, right? Okay. So assuming you've been doing this a little bit and you've got some success in the niche that you're in, mm-hmm. The most persuasive piece of content, the most interesting piece of content is how this client got this result, right? So how this one plumbing company got 375 leads in the past 35 days. That's interesting. It's also extremely persuasive. That's why I put it at the top of the scale. Promote
Okay.
that all day long if you've got it. The second in my mind is a checklist, because it's something that you can look at and say, okay, that looks interesting, and I can consume it in 5 minutes or less, right? So a checklist works really well, and it does a great two-step from they opt in for it or they request it, and now they're on the calendar. They're like, hey, I just want to have somebody do all these checklist things for me, right? And then the third, also extremely powerful, would be a book of some sort, right? Because it positions you in a different way. Like they might not consume the book. As a matter of fact, 90% of the people will never consume the book that you write for your particular niche. But when they opt in for it, they think of you in a completely different light, right? Who's the expert?
Mm-hmm.
The expert is the person that published the book or is speaking at the front of the room. People pay more money than anything else to deal with the very best in their industry. And so I love the idea of having a book that you can offer as an opt-in. You can make it an ebook. It's more powerful to have it in physical format. So if you were looking at the top three, those would be my top three.
Got it. Okay. So we went over pricing. We went over webinars, inbound, outbound. What else should I know about going niche versus general?
I mean, I think that the biggest thing that most people don't recognize when it comes to being niche focused is just the simplicity of the operations angle. You think it's going to make life a little bit easier on the sales process, but the fact is, if you're dealing with a roofer one day, a plumber the next day, an e-commerce site the next day, every time you get a new client, you have to reinvent the wheel. You have to refigure out how to set it up. You've got to set up new systems for your team on how to get the work done and get the results for the client. And that's where most people get bottlenecked, right? They get so busy trying to figure out what they're going to do for the next client that they can't continue to focus on positioning. They can't continue to focus on sales. And so being niche focused takes all of that off your plate. You figure it out once, you make it best in class, and then you can hand it off to a team and have it very systematized. And that's what gives you the ability to quickly go, 50, 70, 100 plus clients and be able to serve them extremely well.
Got it. Okay. You talk a lot about operations. What are your philosophies on systemization within the business?
So, I mean, I think, really the reason we all started our businesses is for like probably two main things. We wanted to make more money, right? So we could have more financial resources to do the things we want to do to take care of our family, right? And we want more freedom, right? We want the ability to do what we want to do when we want to do it, to take the travels, to take the time off. And I think a lot of times, once the money comes, the freedom goes away. It's like, okay, I've got this money coming in, but now I've got to work my tail off to keep it. I got to work my tail off to get the clients that I have. I got to work my tail off to keep the clients that I have engaged so that they don't churn out on me. So I think systems and operations and really building a team around what you do is equally important to how well you sell and how well you grow the agency. And so I think you want to really, really engineer what happens when a client comes on board. What's the launch process look like? What's the intake process look like? What are the steps, right? And put that into a system like Teamwork, where you've got a launch process, you've got a monthly recurring process, and there's clarity on what has to be done by when, who's going to get it done, and what are the KPIs that you're monitoring, that you're watching to make sure that things are getting done consistently and well. Because once you've got the systems and you've got the team, that's where the freedom can come into play.
Okay. You just mentioned something that's very important. You are a big believer in for the students that you coach, weekly KPIs. Walk me through, first of all, what is a KPI? And then what should I be looking at on a weekly basis, a monthly basis, quarterly basis, in order to really get the velocity in the business and things moving forward?
Yeah. So KPIs are key performance indicators, right? And they're the things that if you do those key things day in, day out, month in, month out, it's going to move your business forward, right? And I really believe what you measure improves in any aspect of life. Whether it's, if you were weighing yourself every single day, you're weighing because it's something you're thinking about. It's something you're paying attention to. And so in our businesses, as agencies, there's a million things we could focus on, right? From prospecting to putting out content to trying to find speaking opportunities to following up with our client base and everything in between. And what happens is if we're not clear on the key things that we need to focus on the most, anything is important, and anything could kind of steer us in a different direction. What I believe is to really grow your agency, really what you want to do is consistently be able to land 3 to 5 or more new clients month in and month out, right? And what's going to drive that more than anything else is the number of appointments or strategy sessions you have with new prospects, right? And so that's the main thing I like to have our members focus on is how many strategy sessions are you getting? How many move forward conversations are you having to get those sessions? And then how many new clients did you get this week or this month? And so, I mean, there's lots of KPIs. The top ones are move forward conversations, which is how many prospects have you spoken to that have expressed some level of interest in what you do, right? And you want to be doing probably at least 3 to 5 solid move forward conversations per day, right? If you can get that, and it's not just a cold call, it's somebody that's nodding their head saying, yeah, I'm interested in what you have, right? 3 to 4 per day. The second is how many strategy sessions did you have? So that's a meeting with somebody in your niche that says, I'm interested, show me what you can do. And you can take them through a consultative sales process and ask for the business. I think you want to have at least 3 to 5 per week. That's what we're targeting, 3 to 5 per week. And then how many new clients did you sell, right? If you don't track that on a consistent basis, it'll be, I got 1 this month, I got none. I got 3 and then I got none. You want to be very focusedly targeting how many new clients every month, how much did the recurring revenue go up? So those are the top 3: number of move forward conversations, number of strategy sessions, and the number of new client retainers sold.
Got it. Okay. So looking at your KPIs from a 30,000 foot overview, at that point, you're then able to say, okay, if I'm not getting enough move along conversations, I can do a better job prospecting. If I'm not getting enough strategy sessions, and then just kind of work through, identify the issues within the business and then fine tune them. Is that kind of the thinking behind why you want to track those?
100%. That and of course, what you focus on expands, right? If you're tracking that, you're putting on a board of some sort, you're having somebody else kind of audit and look over it, It makes you do the activity, right? And it's the activity that's going to get you the at-bats. It's the activity that's going to get you the clients. So if you're not focused on that every single day, every single week, every single month, you're not going to get the type of new client growth momentum that you could.
Right. I'm going to go a little off topic here. I don't see a private jet, a Lamborghini. I don't see anything flashy. You're a very humble guy. Why is that? Why do you go that route versus, what's important to you? Why do you do this?
Yeah. So my big thing, I know everybody has different things that are important and a priority for them. For me, it's all about my family. I've got a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old. My world revolves around them. And right. So, it's not important to me to have the Lamborghini or the plane. It's about, right. Spending time with them, having the freedom to do fun stuff with them, put them in the good school. And so that's really what I'm all about.
That's awesome. And to speak to your systemization of the business, was there a goal of how many hours you were looking to work per day or per week in the business to free yourself up to spend more time with them? And if so, how did you accomplish that? Or did you?
Yeah. So initially I was doing almost everything, me and my business partner. Right. Yep. And so the idea was we want to continue to grow, but we want to do less of it ourselves. And so that it actually started with the book, The E-Myth Revisited, right? Where Michael E. Gerber says, if you're working and you can't step away from the business, then you don't really have a business. You've got a job, right? And so we're like, okay, we got to figure out what are the roles within this company that we would want to or need to remove ourselves from next to be productive. Mm-hmm. And so we kind of reversed engineered, what's taking most of our time right now? And out of the gates, it was operations. We get a client, we've got to build out their website, we've got to claim their directory, we've got to do all the work. And so that was the first thing we wanted to remove ourselves from. And then what got really busy for me was all the client relationship stuff, right? Talking to the clients, going through the reports, putting out the fires, being back and forth. And so it was like, okay, I got to remove myself from that aspect of the business. And then, as we started to grow and as we started to scale, there were little sub departments within the company that were still kind of sucking us in. And so that was the intentionality. I try and take at least a full day off every single week to be like what I call free time with the family. So work 4 days per week is really the objective. And then, take at least 4 weeks per month on vacations. So we take a lot of cruises. We go down to the beach a lot. We spend a lot more time.
4 weeks per year, not per month, right?
Per year, yeah. Yes, correction.
Like, damn, Josh is doing well.
Dude, he doesn't work, period. I love it. 4 weeks per year, excuse me. Yeah.
Nice.
So,
cool. Very
cool. And so it was to your point, you have to set an objective. Okay, this is what I'd like my life to look like. And then reverse engineer, like, what would it take? What would you have to remove yourself from? And the last thing I had to remove myself from that was taking almost all of my time was sales and business development. Where it's like, okay, once we get somebody that's interested, somebody has to take them through a consultative sales process and ask for the business. And so that's where almost all my time was. And then sometime, I guess like 3 years ago, I was able to say, okay, do I really have to be the sales guy? Like, do I have to do the sales? What I found was I didn't, right? I could find somebody that I could train to handle that sales process. And so it's kind of end to end, right? Prospects enter the funnel. They go through a consultative sales process. They get launched by our account management team. The work gets done, and the business is growing without me personally having to do all of that much.
Got it. If I wanted to do that, where would I learn more? Give me an idea of what the coaching side of your business looks like.
Yeah, so probably the best place would be to start with the book. Like you said, I kind of take our entire roadmap on kind of the struggles in my first agency to the success that we've had and like what it took in terms of choosing the niche, positioning yourself as the expert, systematizing the process. And so should I tell them where to go to get it, or?
Yeah, please do. I sincerely recommend this book. It's an excellent book. I'm a big reader. I'm always pushing books on the channel. I didn't know what to expect when I got this. I was like, okay, I kind of got behind the scenes of what I thought it was going to be. And then I read it and I was floored. This is an excellent book. This is really well done. I really think it's the best digital marketing agency book in the market. So I highly recommend this book.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, the best place to go would be to go to sevenfigureagency.com/book. You can get a free copy. I'll mail it out. All you got to do is pay the shipping and handling. So if you're interested in getting it, you can go there, sevenfigureagency.com/book. I'll mail it. I'll get you the digital copy right away, some additional video training. And that's probably the best place to kind of enter the seven-figure agency world.
Got it. Awesome. This has been great, Josh. Is there anything else you want to leave the audience with?
No, I mean, I really appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate the time. I think the most important thing is to be clear on your goals, right? Be clear on where you want to go within your business. If you're not making the kind of money that you want to make, if you don't have the kind of freedom that you want, if you're not making the impact in your life that you want to be able to make, just be clear on that, right? Awareness precedes change. So spend a couple minutes right now, pause what you're doing and think about where you want to go in your life and in your business. Mm-hmm. And that clarity will move you into action, right? With clarity on where you want to be, you can start to make the changes that are going to get you the life that you really want. Got it.
I like it. This has been awesome, Josh. Well, I appreciate your time today. Again, check out the book. sevenfigureagency.com/book. Is that correct?
Yep.
Awesome. That's it. If you guys have any questions on this, if you're in the Facebook group, Josh is in there as well. You can fire away. Actually, also you have a Facebook, a public Facebook group as well, correct? For agencies. What is that? Do you want to drop that?
It's Local Marketing Agency Success. So if you could either go to sevenfigureagency.com/group, or you could go to Facebook and just search Local Marketing Agency Success. And we'd love to have you in that.
Good stuff. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time today, Josh.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.